In section 12.3, we turn to yet another tense called the Cal converted perfect. The converted perfect is formed by the addition of what we would call a simple vav, a vav with a vocal schwa, prefixed to a perfect conjugation verb. This combination creates what we call a converted perfect. Unlike the narrative form, where we emphasized very carefully that the narrative, though it appears so, is not actually a conversion of the imperfect form, the Cal converted perfect truly is a conversion of the perfect form. Whereas the narrative form showed a sequence in past tense narration, the converted perfect is used to show a sequence in other contexts, whether those be future action, various modal senses we have discussed, imperative senses, or even the past durative sense. What most likely happened historically is that the narrative existed first, and the converted perfect arose on an analogy with that. The point to remember again, however, is that while a narrative only seems to be related to the imperfect, a converted perfect truly is a conversion of the perfect tense. For examples, consider Exodus 6:7, V'lakachti etkem li la'am, and I will take you for myself as a people. Notice that you have a simple vav, v, and then a perfect form, lakachti. So this would be a Cal converted perfect first common singular of lakach. Consider Genesis 28:20. Ushemarani baderek hazeh asher anoki holek. If he will guard me on this way on which I am going. We have a simple vav, in this case not vav with a schwa, but because we're before the shin, we have u, but it's still the conjunction vav, u plus shemarani plus a Cal perfect. This together then makes a Cal converted perfect. In this case, it's a future conditional sense, if he will guard me. For a third example, consider Deuteronomy 6:5. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha. You have a simple vav, v, in front of what otherwise would be a Cal perfect, ahavta. So this would be parsed as a Cal converted perfect. And you, in this case, shall love the Lord your God. So there's more of an imperatival sense. And then for a fourth example, Genesis 2:6b, V'hishka et kol panei ha'adamah, and they would water. This is a form that we will deal with later, a hiphil, but it is a converted perfect. And so in this case, it is an ongoing action in the past. And they would water all the face of the ground. When you parse a converted perfect, you will use the phrasing converted perfect for the tense. You would say something like Cal converted perfect first common singular of lakach. So in parsing, we say converted perfect. However, when you gloss a converted perfect or translate it, you have to look at another verb in the sentence to be able to get the sense of the converted perfect. A converted perfect verb always looks backwards to a preceding verb which will lead off its sequence. And that preceding verb will provide the translational sense and nuance, whether you should be using conditional, whether you should be using durative past time, future, etc. For example, consider the larger context of some of the examples above. Returning to Genesis 28:20, Im Adonai Elohim imadi, Ushemarani baderek hazeh asher anoki holek. So the phrase begins, or the clause begins with im, if God, Elohim, yihyeh. This is parsed as a Cal imperfect third masculine singular of haya, and it's translated because of im with a conditional. If God will, and then this is with me. So the first part of the clause is if God will be with me. Then we have the converted perfect we discussed a moment ago, ushamarani, a cow converted perfect third masculine singular from shamar, and the translation of ushamarani requires an echoing of the translation of yeh. So since the preceding verb, the imperfect in this case, was conditional, the converted perfect takes its sense from the conditional that preceded and is also conditional. 1, if God will be with me. 2, and if he will keep me on this way. And the rest of the sentence is the relative clause, which I am going. So recognize that the time signature, the modality, all of the things you need to understand how to translate the verb of the converted perfect verb are dependent on the preceding verb that is not converted perfect, the one that leads off its sequence. Similarly, return to Genesis 2:6. Va'ed ya'aleh min ha'aretz, v'hishka et kol panei ha'adamah. The first part of the clause is Va'ed ya'aleh min ha'aretz, and a mist would go up from the earth. So and ed, mist. The verb is an imperfect. This is a kal imperfect third masculine singular of Allah. And in the context of Genesis 2, it must be a past durative. A mist would go up. It's something that happened regularly and repeatedly. The following part of the sequence is then the converted perfect that we discussed, v'hishka, which you would parse as a hiphil, which we'll discuss in chapter 16, converted perfect, third masculine singular of shaka, because the preceding verb, which was not a converted perfect, was translated as past durative. Likewise, then, the following converted perfect, v'hishka, is also translated as past durative. A mist would go up, and it would water all the face of the ground.